just purely the performance of Jalen Hurts last night, it was remarkable. Remarkable. It was one of the best quarterback performances I have seen by an Eagles quarterback in my 46 years. It was that good.
It was a wonderful night last night. And so I get a text message from my former teammate, Troy Aikman. He goes like this to me. Hey, Merrill Reese just stuck his head in and said that's the best half of football he's ever seen a quarterback in Philadelphia play. And he texts me and I go, I got to get Merrill on today. So we bring Merrill Reese on now with us here. Merrill, I got the text from Troy Aikman last night when he was calling the game, and he goes, you stuck your head into the booth and you go, that's the best first half of football I've seen a quarterback in a long time in Philadelphia have. I mean, really a special night last night for Jalen and the team.
It was, Dan. It was an amazing night. Now, I have to say to you that there are games that are historical in nature. There's no way you can't compare last night to the Super Bowl, where Nick Foles was the MVP of the Super Bowl. But just purely the performance of Jalen Hurts last night, it was remarkable. Remarkable. It was one of the best quarterback performances I have seen by an Eagles quarterback in my 46 years. It was that good. I mean,
his confidence, Merrill, in the pocket, his reading, everything. And what I also loved, Merrill, was that the first pass that he got, he wanted to make sure that Devontae knew that he was going to be part of this game and part of this attack. I thought that's the best I've seen him play. Do you agree? That's his best career game so far as an Eagle.
That would be the best career game for a lot of quarterbacks.
Yes.
Can you how many quarterbacks have completed 83% of their passes, thrown for over 300 yards, had a 53-yard bomb for a touchdown, ran for 2 touchdowns, including one on a 26-yard fake out where half the stadium and all of the and all of the defenders were going in the wrong direction. I mean, his ball handling is magical. He did everything right, and even the one interception was really off the hands of Kenneth Gainwell. It wasn't his fault. In fact, I think statistically, interceptions it shouldn't be an interception statistically if it goes off of a receiver's hands.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Those are tips, and they should be a category for tips. How about the game plan too, Merrill, that Shane Steichen called? I mean, it really looks like after that 2-5 start from last year, that he and Jalen now are growing together as coordinator and quarterback. I don't think the coordinator on that side of the ball gets talked about enough in a good light. He's done a really nice job at bringing him along and that offense.
He does. And don't forget, Nick is very involved too. Nick Sirianni is at every quarterback meeting. He sits in on every quarterback meeting. So it's a combination of Nick and Shane and Jalen. And Jalen tells them, they'll ask Jalen, what are you comfortable with? What do you feel? Is there something you really feel good about this week going into this game? And they'll work the whole thing out. And they'll work out fourth downs. If we're going to gamble on fourth down, what are we going to go with? So if that situation comes up during a game, they don't suddenly on the sideline say, oh, what do we do here? It's pre-planned.
Absolutely.
But you know,
defense too.
I am so tired, Dan, of reading in the newspaper and columns and stories and opinions about Jalen Hurts, quote, modest arm talent, or the fact that he does not have a particularly strong NFL arm. There is not a pass that he can't throw. As a matter of fact, I've also read that he does not throw well moving to his left. He threw a ball, he ran to his left, and on the run, he let one go for Quez Watkins down the sideline. That was a laser. It was complete, but it was called back on a holding penalty. There's not a pass that he can't throw. He's got very, very solid arm talent.
I thought Merrill, one of the passes that Goddard didn't catch when he dropped that dime in there and he put that thing in the box, and Goddard, because there were three guys around him, that was one of that showed me touch.
Yes.
You know how many times Elway had to develop touch early in his career because he threw everything through a brick wall.
Right.
But to see a guy throw a 50-yard laser down the field and then a touch pass like that, you're seeing the evolution. And I made this point too about him. Stop comparing him to anybody else in the league. Patrick Mahomes is not comparable. Josh Allen is not comparable. You have a one of. And the Eagle offense and organization, I think, are leaning into that now. Do you agree?
I do. I mean, how could they not after watching what we watched last night? And you know what he showed? Week number 1, he won the game with his legs. Against Detroit, he had to run, and he ran. Boy, did he run. And against the Vikings last night, he won the game with his arm. So he can beat you. Pick your poison. You take away the run, he'll beat you with his arm. You take away the passing game, he'll run for 90 yards. There's nothing he can't do. He's that good.
Very impressive, Merrill. I mean, it was really spectacular. I'll tell you the second best guy on the field, that was Darius Slay. The job that he did on Justin Jefferson, Jefferson wanted to have a big night. Eagles passed on him in the draft, the whole 9 yards. What a performance by Darius Slay last night. I mean, People talk about Jalen Ramsey being the best cover corner. That's as good a performance you can get from a cover corner. Yeah,
we call him Big Play Slay. And he almost had a couple of more other picks in that game, too. And Avonte Maddox made one. You know who I also have to call out if you watch this game? He's not one of the big names on this team, and this team has a lot of big names. But TJ Edwards, who was an undrafted free agent 4 years ago from Wisconsin, he was all over the field. He made tackles. He broke up passes. He covered Dalvin Cook with like a blanket. He was outstanding. Number 57.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I watched him all night last night. It really almost, I would say this to you too. Would you agree, Merrill, that ever since they put him in the starting lineup last year, it's changed the complexion of that entire unit, that defense, and also the linebacking group?
Yeah. Yeah. And Kaiser White is added to that too.
Well, he was just really great. I'll tell you who's I thought played well last night, and he has times where sometimes he goes away. I thought Fletcher played well last night. Look what they did last night to Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's a 1,500-yard back, and they held him to 62 yards rushing, the whole unit to 62 yards rushing. I thought they put that was a great effort last night against a good running team.
And you know what? The guy who gets so much criticism on the talk shows, and you hear it every time the Eagles defense is beaten for a bunch of points, is Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator. He put together a brilliant game plan. That defense, the way they, as you said, the way they covered Justin Jefferson, and when they implemented the blitz, it was well timed. I mean, to give up 7 points to the Vikings, that's it, 7 points. And now I do have to say that the Vikings dropped a gift. I mean, Kirk Cousins threw a absolutely perfect pass downfield to Irv Smith, who was behind the defense, and all he had to do was catch it and walk 15 yards for a touchdown, and he dropped the ball. So they got a break there. But listen, there were all kinds of crazy things happening. I mean, Aaron Sippis, the punter, made a tackle on a blocked punt. Went 50 yards down.
How does he catch Pederson? I mean, I think that shows you how that kid Pederson doesn't have the step that he used to have when he was younger, because the punter caught him.
Aaron Sippis is an Australian. I didn't even know he knew how to tackle.
2 last questions for you, Merrill. I'll tell you another guy that I'm really impressed with in the first 2 weeks is Miles Sanders, 90 against the Lions, 80 yards. And when you get 80 yards from him, that takes so much more heat off of Jalen. Play action's open. You're able to do more things back there in the pocket. It looks like he's running with a purpose. I know he's auditioning in case something goes sideways at the end of the year, but it's been a nice start to the season for him as well.
Oh, he's good. He's good. He's another one of those Penn State backs who he sat behind Saquon Barkley for a couple of years, and then he took over, and he's really good. By the way, Penn State has another one that I saw last week. Nicholas Singleton, his name is. Have you seen him?
I have. The D coordinator, Manny Diaz, told me about him the other day. He used to be the head coach at the University of Miami. He's now the defensive coordinator. He goes, Sills, watch this kid.
Yeah, he coached my alma mater, Temple, for 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I know. Then we stole him away from you guys, and we had to give Temple $5 million. I remember that. Yeah, Manny's doing a great job. Joey Porter Jr. and those guys at Penn State, they're doing a nice job there.
Just threw that in about Miles and the Penn State backs.
Very good. Okay. This team better than that 2017 team?
Yes. Well, let me just say this.
Huh?
Oh, now,
no. You got to cross the finish line. I got it.
Okay. We have seen this team play a great game last night. We saw a team a week ago play a great offensive game. This team, on paper, they're better. Don't forget that 2017 was playing with guys who came out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost Jordan Hicks, who, by the way, was back last night and had the one interception, but they lost him for the season early. They lost Jason Peters, their left tackle, for the season early. They lost their best special teamer, Caleb Sturgis was the kicker. They lost Chris Maragos, their best special teamer, for the season early. I mean, they lost so many people and then ultimately they lost the very good Carson Wentz, who at that point when he went down against the Rams was probably the MVP of the league. So they lost all of those people in 2017. Now, if you look at this team and say you can't say right now, we saw it last night, but it would be a stretch to say that Jalen Hurts developmentally is where Carson Wentz was when he went down in that season against the Rams. Carson Wentz right there was the top quarterback in football that season. So that team had a lot on its resume, but this team has more talent. This is a more complete team from a talent standpoint. I really believe that. But that doesn't mean they'll win the Super Bowl. That
Absolutely.
doesn't mean the Super Bowl. There are a lot of things that could go on, and I like to say that the NFL is a war of attrition. Every week, somebody goes down. Could be a quarterback, could be a middle linebacker, could be a corner, a shutdown corner. You don't know. The NFL, you cross your fingers and hope that your key pieces stay healthy, because I've always believed that a team that could go 12-5, if they have the wrong three people injured at the wrong point of the season, could just as easily be 8-9.
Absolutely. Finally, it's Commander Wentz week. What kind of emotions do you think? I mean, Carson Wentz playing against the Eagles. I know it's there at that one of your favorite places on the planet, FedEx Field.
The dump. The dump. The dump.
I mean, what do you think this week is going to mean in Philly?
I tell you, Dan, it's a very, very dangerous week for this team, because they are coming off the highest of highs and going up against an inferior opponent and
a divisional opponent.
And a divisional opponent, but it's a road game after a home Monday night win. And I think, the gamblers will find statistics to tell you that's pretty dangerous. But the fact of the matter is they can't go in there any less intense than they were last night against Minnesota. I want to tell you something. I'll tell you what played a part in this team winning the game last night. Losing the coin toss. Because every team today wins the coin toss and defers. This team lost the coin toss, and of course, Minnesota deferred, and the Eagles got the ball first, and they marched all the way down with a great drive and scored a touchdown. That set the tone of that game. That set the tone. I think more teams should just throw analytics to the wind. Remember, they all used to say, "We want the ball," and they'd start out with a rush on offense. Now everybody defers if they win the coin toss. I honestly think, it might have come out the same way, but it's just my feeling the way when they lost the coin toss and Minnesota says, "We defer." I was happy. I thought they wanted the ball, and I thought they had to show and establish something right there, and that's what they did.
Yeah, well, Merrill, when you got an O-line like you guys do, I mean, I might want the ball too.
Yeah, they're awfully good. But for a while, they got 4 penalties for illegal receiver down, ineligible receiver down.
You know what, though, Merrill? That is such that RPO kind of thing. It's such a tough thing to block because you really don't know where the quarterback is because it's a read option.
Hmm?
I think that's a timing thing between the quarterback and the lineman because they don't really get a chance to see it.
Yeah,
I think they'll figure that out as they play more with Jalen in that system like that. That's a hard block for any old lineman to block.
it is. But Jalen's special. He really is, Dan.
He was special last night for sure. Merrill, thank you, man. It's going to be interesting. Commander Wentz week. Washington.
Commander Wentz. Well, listen, they have a win under their belt. They've won a game.
You know what, though, too? And I threw these stats out, too. 650 yards in the first 2 games for Wentz. He's at 65% completion percentage. He's thrown 7 touchdowns and 3 picks. He's got a 101.1 quarterback rating. I don't know. If I'm Washington, he's probably the best quarterback, and dare I say, since Kirk Cousins was in there throwing the ball. But I don't know. I think they have to be somewhat pleased that he's there. He was 21 of 29 in the second half against a pretty good Detroit team that we now look at as being pretty decent.
They are pretty good. Carson Wentz never lacked talent. Here's my theory on that, and I like Carson Wentz. He's a good person, and he's a marvelous athlete. But when he was hurt in 2017, he didn't just have a torn ACL. He had a torn ACL, a torn MCL, and structural damage to his knee. He came back the following year, and he wasn't the same player athletically, where he could extend plays and take off when he wanted to take off. And he never adjusted. He never adjusted to not being the same running the football movement-wise. And then he also that year had some sort of a fracture in his spine. And he took coaching tough. He and Doug just never got on the same page. And I think the world of Ron Rivera. If Carson Wentz listens, and if Carson Wentz reinvents himself to take advantage of his sizable talent, he'll be a fine quarterback. And I don't talk about Carson Wentz with anything other than glowing terms, but he just has to do what is best. We've seen that happen to quarterbacks all the time.
Oh yeah.
Donovan McNabb started out as a running quarterback, but during his best years, he was more of a pocket passer. We've seen that. And but Carson Wentz has tons of talent. It doesn't surprise me that he's putting up the numbers that he's putting up.
Real quick, your boy Doug won last week, 24-0. He's now 1-0 down in Jacksonville. And you said about Trevor Lawrence, 25-30, 250 some odd yards last week. Guy looked really good last week. I mean, they're pretty decent on defense.
You know what? That is what they call a marriage made in heaven. Doug Pederson, great coach. Trevor Lawrence, great talent. Doug Peterson's going to make him one of the best quarterbacks in football. And Doug Pederson has a chance to be the coach of the year. He could be the coach of the year this year.
I agree with you 100%. Merrill, thank you, man. That was tremendous. Have a great call this week and go get them and fly, Eagles, fly. Let's go, man. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Merrill.
See you, Dan.
You got it. That was damn good, man. Wow. And I love when Merrill goes like this. I hate FedEx. One of my favorites. Hey, hit the like button. Do me a favor. Don't forget, Gary Cobb's joining us. Hour 2, 4:30 Eastern time. Also, our good friends at Morgan & Morgan, where the fee is free unless you get paid, they don't get paid, okay? That's not how this thing works here. If you're not getting financially compensated, Morgan & Morgan doesn't get compensated either. They're there with you in this. When it comes to a situation, if you've ever been hurt or injured on the job, this is exactly what Morgan & Morgan's there for. Over 800 attorneys and offices in Philadelphia, New York, and in Florida. The biggest law firm in the country is ready to do battle for you. There's no such thing as a fender bender when you talk Morgan & Morgan. So call them at 800-512-1600. That's 800-512-1600. The call is free. The consultation's free. And when you call Morgan & Morgan, do me a favor, tell them Big Sil sent you.
When choosing a lawyer for your injury case, you may ask, does the size of the law firm matter? Well, of course it does. The insurance company, they're huge with unlimited resources. And whether your case is big or small, they're built to bully you out of the money you're owed. But here's the good news. We're big too, the biggest actually. And we're built to fight to make them pay for all that was taken from you. Size is our strength. There's only one Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.